Hey Bulldoggers, it's Britt, and we're coming back at you with our Bulldog Online YouTube channel.
I'm Kelly, and today we're going to talk about prenatal yoga, what poses not to do in it, what poses are safe, and helpful modifications. Choosing to continue your yoga practice when you're expecting is a very personal choice, but if done the right way, it can be extremely beneficial during the duration of your pregnancy. Prenatal yoga is a multifaceted approach to exercise that encourages stretching, mental centering, and focus. According to the Mayo Clinic, prenatal yoga can help improve sleep, decrease stress and anxiety during pregnancy, increase the strength, flexibility, and endurance needed for the muscles that you use during childbirth, and it can also decrease lower back pain, nausea, headaches, and shortness of breath.
Studies have also found that there is a relationship between prenatal yoga and the reduction of hypertension-related complications during your pregnancy. While prenatal yoga is safe for most healthy pregnant women, not every yoga pose is safe for an expectant mom. You know, I just had my first baby 6 months ago, and even while I was pregnant and teaching, I still was unsure at times what poses were best and what poses were not best during pregnancy. Whether you're taking a prenatal or even a regular class in the studio or at home, it's important to know what poses you should avoid or modify and why. So let's discuss prenatal yoga, shall we? Since neither Kelly nor I are specifically trained in prenatal yoga or how to safely yoga with pregnant women, let's bring it to the mat with our Bulldog leader, Tessa. She is our resident prenatal expert, and she's also an expert on being a fierce yoga mama. Hi Tessa, welcome to our Bulldog Online YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us today as we break down for our viewers a little bit about prenatal yoga and especially what poses to avoid or modify while pregnant.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I actually have 2 kids myself, as you know. On top of my yoga teacher training, I did an advanced training as well, which included some prenatal work as a concentration. It helped me understand a little bit more about what maybe you should take a pause with when you are pregnant. If you are pregnant, even early on, you want to avoid having poses on the mat with your belly down. Some poses like cobra or locust or bow that involve lying right on your belly on the mat, you're gonna wanna skip during your pregnancy. That doesn't mean that you can't do your flow and do some poses. We have some other options for you. So instead of doing cobra pose, you might wanna think about doing a cow or a sphinx. Sphinx might be harder as you move on into your pregnancy as your belly gets bigger, but we do have some other options for you. So Brittany's showing us first her cobra pose. All right, so you can see as her belly might start getting bigger, it might be uncomfortable, you might want to avoid that. So I'm gonna have you lower down, Britt, go all the way down, and she's gonna place her forearms down onto the mat, and she's gonna come up into her sphinx pose. So her chest is lifting, so she's still getting this belly down back bend, but she's getting a little bit more space underneath her belly. Now, as you progress with your pregnancy, that's not gonna be an option either. So Brittany, lower all the way down. And she's gonna come up into a tabletop position, so wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath her hips, and she's gonna move into cow pose. So she's gonna look up towards the sky, drop her belly, and lift her booty. So that's just another option for when you're in your prone poses with your belly on the mat. She's gonna have plenty of space for the baby.
Thanks, Tessa. And I remember all too well from my pregnancy not too long ago that once you get to your 2nd and 3rd trimesters, laying on your belly is just not an option at all. And I also hear that you sometimes can't lay on your back either.
So you can always lay onto your side, and you can put a blanket underneath your shoulder or between your legs. That's a nice option as well that would make you feel more comfortable. So the main idea during your pregnancy and while you're doing your yoga is you have to make space for your growing baby, and every day might feel a little bit different. So core exercises are included with that as well. So if you're being asked to do crunches and boat poses, that's gonna compress your abdomen and should be avoided during your pregnancy. But that doesn't mean that you can't do core work. We just encourage you to do some belly down core work is what we call it here at Bulldog, which is plank work. This will help you create a strong, stable core while you're in your pregnancy, and that's gonna give you some support for your low back, because we all know we get low back pain when we're moving through our pregnancy, and it'll help build some stamina and strength when you go into labor and then eventually your delivery. So here's Brittany in her plank pose. So again, we want to avoid doing belly up crunches that we often teach in our classes. And what you can do is you can come into a plank pose, and then she's just gonna wrap in through her waist and hug in. That's gonna just give a lot of strength through all the core muscles throughout your torso. She can also drop down to her knees. Brittany's gonna drop to her knees. As your belly starts getting bigger, your hips are gonna wanna lower down because you just simply have more, around your belly. So if that's the case for you, drop your knees down and then wrap in through your waist. And this is still gonna give you a lot of core strength that you can work on as you move through your pregnancy. So similar to crunches, while you are in your pregnancy, you want to avoid doing any deep twists while you're on your mat. First, you're going to have less space to take the twist, and you just don't want to put any extra compression on your waist as you're taking these twisting poses. So twisting poses to avoid could be twisting chair, a twisting crescent, also known as a high lunge, revolved triangle, revolved half moon, or seated twists. So Brittany's gonna show us how maybe we can modify some of our twisting poses as your belly starts to grow. So we teach chair twist a lot in Bulldog and other classes too. So Brittany's gonna show you how we take our chair twist when you are not actually dialing back on that twist. So you can see there's not a lot of room here. So she's gonna come back out of this a little bit. She's still gonna sink down into her hips, and she's just gonna turn slightly to the right, but not hook her elbow onto her thigh. So that's a good option as well. Feel good? Mm-hmm. Okay, now she's gonna stand up, and I'm gonna show you how you can use a block to give you even more support. So Brittany's gonna put the block in between her thighs on the most narrow setting and sink down into the chair. Bring your hands to her, bring your hands to prayer position, and then she's gonna twist to the right a little bit and just rest her left elbow onto the block. That's gonna give her a little bit more support, and then while she's hugging into the block, she's asking her leg muscles to do a lot of the work for her. So this is a good option as well.
So in general, during twists, like Tessa just mentioned, and some other yoga poses, you wanna be careful not to overstretch your body. So during pregnancy, different hormones can actually make you feel like you can stretch more and a little deeper. So you just wanna be aware of that. You just wanna be really safe with your joints and ligaments and focus more on strength and stability rather than stretching and deepening into poses. And as your pregnancy progresses, as your belly grows, you also wanna be careful of deeper forward folds. So either standing or sitting down. You wanna make space for your baby again. So think about where you can modify. So Tessa will show you in a forward fold some options for modification. Tessa here is in a seated forward fold. So let's start by reaching your hands up tall, big inhale. Exhale, fold towards your feet. So this is something you wanna avoid during pregnancy. A way to modify this is, Tessa, sit back up, widen your stance here, and you can also do this when you're standing in a forward fold. So you wanna widen your feet out, and you wanna maybe just notice going a little less deep into this stretch. So when you inhale, reach your hands up high, and exhale, maybe bring your hands to your shins to start, maybe to a block in front of you or the floor, and just allow yourself to release here.
So let's talk about back bends. So while gentle back bends might be therapeutic and feel really nice during pregnancy, you want to avoid some really deep back bends like wheel pose. Similar to what we were talking about when we were doing ab work and crunches, you don't want to overstretch your abs here. They're going to stretch out on their own as the baby grows, but you don't want to push it. So luckily we have some options for you if you don't want to go into a full wheel as your belly gets bigger through your pregnancy. So you want to avoid a full wheel, which is a rainbow shape when you're on your mat, but instead you could do a supported bridge pose. So Brittany's going to show us how to do this, and her feet are separated hip width apart, and her feet are as close to her low back as possible, and she's going to press down and lift her hips up. So this is a much more grounding back bend that's going to get an extension through your spine, but the bigger your belly is, the more challenging this might be. So if you have a block or a pillow at home, you might want to just put that underneath your low back, and that's going to help get a little bit of an extension through your upper back and your shoulders where you might be starting to be a little bit more hunched over. So that's a really good option to take.
As Tessa knows, I am sort of an inversion junkie. You kind of are too. And during my pregnancy recently, I was able to safely and comfortably do inversions because I had been practicing them pre-pregnancy. So the general rule of thumb is if you practice inversions prior to your pregnancy, you can continue them safely, but now is not the time to start a new inversion practice if you're newly pregnant. So mainly the reason for that is you want to avoid toppling over, hurting yourself, or anything to do with the baby or your belly.
So you don't want to start an inversion practice when you're pregnant. If you've already done inversions and you know what it feels like to go upside down, you can continue doing it because you'll have a better grounding practice. Like you'll know what it's like, and then you can start working with the variability of that belly, lifting it up.
Yes.
You know, like you just
that.
don't want to be upside down first and then getting your hips up over your head or leg.
Makes sense.
That's it for today, Bulldoggers. We hope that we helped you future mama-to-bees learn how to still get your bulldog on safely. Here's a recap of what Tessa and Britt just discussed regarding poses to avoid while pregnant. All right, so the first thing to remember is that you should avoid doing belly down poses to avoid hurting yourself or your baby.
And instead of lying directly on your back, try lying on your side instead. Take a rest.
When it comes to crunching and belly up core, take some precautions and maybe try flipping on your side and taking a side or belly down core variation. When it comes to deep forward folds, give yourself and your belly a little bit more space by opening up your legs and going wider, not deeper.
Also, same thing with twists. So try to avoid deeper twists and go for softer, more open twists from your upper body.
If you're going for some back bends, try to soften them a bit by modifying, maybe sliding a block under your hips for a supported bridge or wheel variation.
And lastly, inversions. So if you safely did inversions before pregnancy, you can safely do them into your pregnancy, but during your pregnancy is not the time to start an inversion practice. Also, those fancy Instagram-worthy pretzel poses, try to avoid those and just relax and eat pretzels at home while you're pregnant.
Do I have to be pregnant to do that?
No. All right, Bulldoggers, so that's it for today. Did this video help you learn what poses not to do during pregnancy and a little bit more about prenatal yoga? If so, comment below with either your favorite prenatal pose or a pose that you've learned to avoid during your pregnancy. And check us out on bulldogonline.com for our yoga platform. We have prenatal classes online right now. And if you're looking to just avoid yoga altogether during your pregnancy, we also have an amazing meditation series which will just help you relax and de-stress throughout your pregnancy, which is the most important thing. So check us out next time, guys. See you later.
I know, Britt.
I know.
Show us how you're savage.
That was like a look.